Warren Buffett wrote an op-ed in the New York Times today that I thought was excellent. This is one of the richest men in the world, and he is saying, please raise our taxes on the mega rich. In fact, I'll give you direct quotes. Here's the first one. He says, our leaders have asked for shared sacrifice, but when they did the asking, they spared me. I checked with my mega rich friends to learn what pain they were expecting. They too were left untouched. Now, it's one thing for a Democrat or somebody in the Progressive Caucus to say this, although you won't hear a lot of Democrats that aren't in the Progressive Caucus even saying this, if you ask me. But it's another thing for one of the richest men in the world to say it, to say, hey, what are you doing? You left us untouched. He continues. These and other blessings showered upon us by legislators in Washington who feel compelled to protect us, much as if we were spotted owls or some other endangered species. It's nice to have friends in high places. But that's exactly right. The reason that the rich get these huge tax breaks is because they buy the politicians. Now, I'm going to explain to you at the end why Warren Buffett speaking out on this both matters and is not as relevant as other rich people who want their taxes lowered. But he makes a great case here. And as he makes the case, you wish that our so-called Democratic president would say similar things and as forcefully and actually try to win that argument. Here's the third quote from the article. While the poor and middle class fight for us in Afghanistan, while most Americans struggle to make ends meet, we mega rich continue to get our extraordinary tax breaks. Some of us are investment managers who earn billions from our daily labors, but are allowed to classify our income as, quote, carried interest, thereby getting a bargain 15% tax rate. You understand what he's saying there? It's this weird rule called the carried interest. It only exists because the private equity guys who it applies to donated a lot of money to politicians, so instead of getting the 35% rate that they should be getting, they magically got a carried interest rate of 15%. It's on money that they have earned as income, but they just say, we make it in the investment field, we're investing it for other people, so somehow magically 15% should apply. And Warren Buffett calls BS on it and says there's no reason why you should be paying taxes that low, lower than the average American, which he goes on to explain. He says, last year, my federal tax bill, the income tax I paid, as well as payroll taxes paid by me and on my behalf, was $6,938,744. Now, that sounds like a lot of money, but what I paid was only 17.4% of my taxable income. And that's actually a lower percentage than was paid by any of the other 20 people in our office. Their tax burdens ranged from 33% to 41% and averaged 36%. Why is that? Because the other people at his office, whether it's his secretary or anyone else, is making income. And on income, they have to pay a normal income tax, and they pay the payroll tax on top. But when it is investment money, whether it's dividend tax rate that is applied or the carried interest that applies to private equity, although I don't think it applies to Warren Buffett, et cetera, capital gains, these are all at 15%. So it allows the richest people in the country to pay the lowest rate. As Warren Buffett is saying, that makes no sense. He's like, look, I'm paying 15%. My secretary pays 15 to 25%, depending on her or his income range. And then they pay a huge chunk of this percentage of their salary in payroll tax on top. He's like, my payroll tax is basically nothing compared to my income. This is totally unjust. But he doesn't stop there. He continues. He explains how much worse things have gotten. He explains that in 1992, the top 400 tax earners, that is, people making the most amount of money that year, top 400, made $16.9 billion overall. In 2008, they made $90.9 billion, which means, God, they're doing, as you can tell, fantastic. Their income has gone up so much. How about their taxes? In 92, on average, they were paying 29.2%. Now they're paying 21.5%. So as their money has gone exponentially higher, their taxes have gotten significantly lower. Now, in a just world, that makes no sense. In a world where rich people can buy our politicians, it makes all the sense in the world. They take some of that extra money, get huge tax breaks, and make so much more than the money that they're giving the politicians. Now, Warren Buffett is pointing all this out, and then he has a proposal. He says, hey, you know what? How about we just increase the taxes on the really, really rich by a little bit? And that would actually create a lot of revenue for the government so that we can fund some of those other programs instead of constantly taking from the poor and the middle class. So as an example, he says, but for those making more than $1 million, there were 236,883 such households in 2009. I would raise rates immediately on taxable income in excess of $1 million, including, of course, dividends and capital gains, what I was referring to earlier. And for those who make $10 million or more, I would suggest an additional increase in rate. So he's saying, hey, make it layered. The people who can make it over $1 million in income per year can certainly afford to pay more right now. And to make it over $10 million a year, well, obviously they can afford to pay a little higher in taxes. Can we at least get that done? Of course, most politicians say no. And, you know, one more thing here that he goes back and points out that I think is absolutely critical. He talks about, well, let me give you the direct quote. He says, back in the 1980s and 1990s, tax rates for the rich were far higher, and my percentage rate was in the middle of the pack. According to a theory I sometimes hear, I should have thrown a fit and refused to invest because of the elevated tax rates on capital gains and dividends. I didn't refuse, nor did others. I've worked with investors for 60 years, and I have yet to see anyone, not even when capital gains rates were 39.9% in 1976 and 77, shy away from a sensible investment because of the tax rate on the potential gain. People invest to make money, and potential taxes have never scared them off. The reason that I love that he added that point is, this is what I've been saying all along. Look, if you're going to make money, whether it's in a small business like ours or you're a large investor, you're not going to say, well, if I make a lot of money, they'll take a little extra in taxes. You're going to make the money. No smart investor in their right mind says, I don't want extra money because I'll pay a little extra taxes on top of it. Remember, it's on extra profit that you're paying the taxes. So it's one thing for me to say, they say, oh, you lib. It's another when Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world, says, of course people don't make decisions based on that. You always make an extra dollar, no matter how much they take, almost no matter how much they take out of it in taxes. So that is a nonsensical point that is used by the Republicans and unfortunately a lot of Democrats these days to help the rich avoid taxes. So now, why does Warren Buffett lose this battle? Why do the people who push for, even the mega rich who push for higher taxes, lose to the mega rich who push for lower taxes? Because Warren Buffett is making an ideological point. He's not going to back it up with money. He's not going to pay politicians to tax him more, and I don't expect him to. That's asking for too much. But the guys who have the opposite idea, the ones who stand to gain, as Warren Buffett does, from lower taxes, well, they pay the politicians. And they say, hey, you know what? Here's your campaign contribution. Here's the money I'm going to give you after you retire. Here's the money I'm paying your son-in-law to be a lobbyist. Here's the money I'm paying your staffer after he leaves your office. All of that is done so you'll give me a lower tax rate. Money talks. That's why they win and Warren Buffett loses, and we all lose. But Warren Buffett ends on a good note, and I wanted to share that with you as well, and I think it is important that he's saying all of this. Quote, my friends and I have been coddled long enough by a billionaire-friendly Congress. It's time for our government to get serious about shared sacrifice. Now, despite the fact that he will ultimately lose this battle, unfortunately, because it is a billionaire-friendly Congress who get paid by those billionaires, it is still important that he's saying this. Because right after I read this article, which I thought was great, I saw a political discussion where all of a sudden guys who talk about the markets, who are always in favor of lower taxes, are like, you know, Warren Buffett does make a pretty good point. I mean, taxes are at a record low, and we did reduce taxes over the last 10 years, and it hasn't helped employment at all. On the other hand, when taxes were high, and Warren Buffett also has this in his articles, and we'll provide the link for you, that, you know, we had really good employment when taxes were higher, so maybe Warren Buffett makes a good point. Look, at the very least, he did the best he could in starting to change that conversation, and he has the credibility to change that conversation. Now, my final note on it is, wouldn't it be nice if we had a Democratic president who made the point just as well and insisted upon it until he won, and he got the American people behind him to get that victory? Instead, we have a president who just agreed to a package that has no revenue increases, and now he hopes that the Republicans, out of the goodness of their hearts, will agree in a super Congress to extra revenue. You think that's how it's going to turn out? Not in this billionaire-friendly Congress.